Do you want to become a permanent part of the channel? Check out the Alliteration Gaming Patreon. Here you'll find different tiers that all let you get involved in my videos, as well as provide you with a shout out, exclusive Discord access, and the ability to see my content early and ad free. Now if you're new here, you're gonna need an account on the UGN site. This will let you sign up for events, locate stores near you, and of course accrue those redemption points to use in the loyalty shop. You can even snag yourself 50 bonus points right now if you let me refer you. Until August 30th, when you're signing up, just click on Content Creator and type my channel name in the box. Regardless of how you do it though, thanks for being part of the Alliteration Nation. Now, let's get on to the video. Good evening, my dear viewers. Welcome to another Alliteration gaming video. My name's Leva, and we've got another deck commission hot on the charts today. This one's gonna come from one of my newest patrons, Joey, and he simply gave me the guidelines that Asui is his favorite character ever, and he wants a competitive air Asui deck. Air is pretty much the symbol that Asui has seen like not really any real competitive or even casual play on, to be honest. I haven't seen this character sleeped up on the air symbol in quite a long time, so this was going to be an interesting challenge for sure. However, Asui is a character that's really just hard to go wrong with. Kick and ranged is such a wide spread of very good keywords across all three of these symbols, so it's incredibly easy to find really good ones to play with her, and all around the character is just super strong. Now the first thing you're going to notice about this deck is it's very small. This is the tightest 50 card deck ever, and it's kind of just going to be essentially my interpretation of like the Master Asia style Asui list, where we just play a tight 50 card deck with extremely crazy aggressive attack ratios, and we just look to play like 5 attacks on turn 2 and murder our opponent. Now I think that the air symbol is a little weaker at doing that than the others because it's really hard to find repeated damage pump. So we're going to be really reliant instead on like other combinations of cards to kind of get us there. So going into our attack lineup, we have 3 Frog Kick because this card's just really fantastic in Asui. It's going to let us ready up our foundations, which is really important for certain things. Immediately you'll notice some of the combos, like we're going to be able to use stuff like Ryukyu Agency Trainees more than once per turn. I'm really into the idea of doing stuff like that. I think that that card helps a deck like this go really far. And in general, it's got a great block, and it's just an annoying card to deal with. There's like a pesky element of lows in this deck because, spoiler alert, 1.3 is our main kill condition because we're an air deck and we can put speed on it. So being able to eat their low blocks or just get that free damage in and that free speed is very good. Frog Kick into 1.3 is kind of the name of the game here because it basically says you have to have 2 lows, or you can half block this, save your low for the 1.3, but now because you half blocked it, it's coming in with 3 speed. So it's going to be a 6 speed base, 8 speed with Asui. How are you blocking an 8 speed 1.3? You're just not. That's the simple question there. And then as far as making stuff like our 1.3 a little tougher to block, I think Razor Deluge is really cool here. Making them stuff their card pool. If someone has left our card pool, this is like our pseudo Tongue Whip. It's Tongue Whip at home. It's nowhere near as good as Tongue Whip, but importantly, it does only start at 3, but this enhance here lets it kind of scale a little bit, or at least eat cards out of their hand. But really the most important part about this card is that it just stuffs their card pool up, and again makes our 1.3s a lot harder to stop. 50 card deck with 4 1.3s, we're going to find 1 or 2 pretty easily, all things considered. So that's where this comes into play. It's a bit more of a setup attack. Single Spiral is also going to go really far in just being a base 5 damage move. That also says, if you feel like stopping it, you don't want to take 5, you're going to let me draw 2, discard 2. Once again, very important for finding like our combo pieces attack wise. Just lets us dig a lot deeper into our already aggressively slanted ratio deck. 19 attacks and 50 cards is ridiculously aggressive because the deck has one goal, right? Tongue Smack is in the same vein. We actually really value the damage on Tongue Smack now. Having a 4 diff that's a 6 damage move is really valuable for us, but also we get to draw a card off of it. So between this and Single Spiral, we get to find the hot hands very easily, I think. And then the last thing here is a pair of Nejire Waves that just say like if your rival's like a 7-hander, this is what we really get to bully them with by saying all of my 5-6 damage pokes that you had to block, because you just can't take that kind of damage for free. Well, now Nejire Wave just gets Wave just gets to be like an, you know, a 6, 8, 10 damage move potentially, which is really strong. If we do happen to go like, you know, past turn 2 and we snag some momentum, this also goes into a pseudo stun 3, which is ridiculously good, especially for 1.3. Like we said before, this is the hard kill condition of the deck. And gain into damage for every single committed foundation is just nutso. It's very, very slow at a base speed, but it does stun one. It has a potential to stun one more. And then, of course, Asui is going to make it a base 5 speed with her own character card. And then if we're comboing with things like Frog Kick, we can potentially make it a lot faster, which is just all really, really, really good. Going into the, I have also a one-of earphone jack, simply because it lets us ready our stuff for free. The only charge we're playing is 1.3, but it puts 1 speed on 1.3, which is like the important move. So I think it's just a super fine one-of. This could also be like a sports festival stadium or something like that if you really wanted to. It's a 50 card deck, so there's not really room for like tech assets very much, but this is like fine for me. And then into our foundations, we just have a really efficient like air symbol aggro lineup. We're playing the 10-0 lineup. Basic training is very important because we're just looking for stats, especially damage. Requesting is only a 3-of because again, we don't snap momentum in this deck, so it's only going to be like a turn 3 onwards card, but it is really, really good in that sense. And of course, release helps us survive a little bit. We're not looking to pack very much speed reduction in this deck because we're very aggressive, so we want things that also combo really well for our aggression. And while release doesn't have an aggro ability on it, it is a 0, which just like factors into us building more. Arrogant is just kind of like a sick 2-of in here. I think you could easily replace this for like any of the other non-spams that I have in this lineup because these are all pretty solid, but we'll get to those later on. But for now though, I think this is just fine. It's a 6 check, and everyone and their mother plays punches now. 4 destined because it just guarantees that we get good checks on top of our deck. Also helps us draw more attacks, which is really nice. One thing that I think that Air Asui can kind of lack over like, you know, life and water is she struggles to find as much card draw and as much repeated damage pump. Life symbol, water symbol, both very, very good at those things, right? Water, you know, you become a heat wave deck, you get draw 2, you get prone to dry eyes. Life, you get stuff like self-sacrifice, all these little +1s, you know, floating around my babies, all of that stuff. And then of course you get passing the torch and just a flurry of other ways to draw cards. So air, we got to work a little bit harder. Destined is kind of a big part of that. Alliteration of the big 3 is one of our awesome newest additions to a deck like this, in that it gave the air symbol the other side of repeated +1s on a spam that destroys your foundations. A spam foundation that weaponizes your stage, right? Before, we had Feelin' Cute for destroy for +1 speed. Now we have Alliteration for destroy for +1 damage and also the incidental heal. I think I like Alliteration better in this deck because damage is harder to come by. Like, I really like the damage on all of these other moves except for 1.3. 1.3 swings are the only time I feel like I'd rather Feelin' Cute. So for that reason, I think Alliteration is better, but Feelin' Cute could be the superior one in that slot. Hard to say. We got a 1-of Web of Blades because we're an aggro deck and it lets us protect our stats. This is just always the freest 1-of ever. I think Asui's Friendship is a crazy tech piece in this deck. A lot of these moves are ranged. I think actually everything besides Frog Kick is ranged. And so we get tons of mileage out of this card, being able to commit this, tell them to commit to as like a pseudo stun too, and then being able to flip it to ready Asui is great. We love commit costs inside of this deck because then we can just flip them and get even more value out of them with our character. I think this is really good. This on board early game puts your rival in an awful position where if they take it, we get to pseudo stun to them, and then the 1.3 is just even scarier and tougher to deal with. But then if they block it, they put more cards in their card pool, which just makes the 1.3 even more impossible to block, especially on the back of like a Razor Deluge or something like that too. It just can get really scary really fast. 4 nice tries because we get to commit this aggressively and not care whatsoever. In this case, a deck like this is better than Specialist of Sound because we get to play greedy and commit it aggressively and not really care at all. It's mostly, again, this is like relevant text only if we pass back into them, which we're not usually going to do, but again, you don't always find the hotness on turn 2 completely. So even just having like, you know, basically nice try and release are like our fallback plans in case, you know, we don't find that immediate nuke. This card, crazy in this deck. Ryukyu Agency Training, I think, is an insane card in a deck like this. Just being able to say, oh hey, you blocked my pokes. Well, now your card pool's filled up. My 1.3s are even harder to deal with, and I'm getting to build my free foundations snapped in. You know, you might have gotten that really good turn 1 build, but you didn't quite get like the really important piece, like the Neijire-chan on the board or the Asui's Friendship or something on the board like that. Well, now it's coming in the middle of your combat phase after your next draw phase, and that's just so good, man. I think this card's crazy in this deck. In the event that our game goes long, it's also a really scary deadlock response. And then I got a 1-of Rescue completed because like it's fine. It's a little bit of a fallback speed hate, but more importantly, it destroys to ready to face down. So when we're super on the aggressive, This card gets to count as 2, which is really, really sweet. Into our sideboard here, a little bit of this is a sideboard, a little bit of this is alternate cards you could play. I think the Arrogance could become, the 2 of Arrogance could become like some other non-spam if you want, but I kind of wanted to keep the spam to non-spam ratios very aggressive on the spams because we're looking to build super wide, super early with this deck. But if you disagree, I think Latent Skill is very good to find those hot hands. If you feel like your Tongue Smacks and your single spirals aren't quite getting there, this card's very, very good for that. Encouraging Training Partner might be the best main deck like speed control because it's really, really good as like a floodgate to your rival's bomb attacks, but also it protects your own attacks speed-wise. Like this is super versatile text, and being able to say like, oh, you Specialist of Sounded or like Heroic Lineage me or something like that. Okay, I'll flip change it to 4. Now I'll Asui for another 2. We're back up to 6. Have fun dealing with that. I think it's very, very good. So this one might be a better main deck than something like, I think the flexible main deck slot in here is like the Asui's Friendship. Might be better than the Asui's Friendship here to have the Training Partner. Mostly probably depends on your local meta. I think First Day of Class is also a good slot to consider there, either for the Friendship slot or the Arrogant slot. This card's really good for just like, you know, eating up your difficulty curve a little bit, but for the most part, it's a little awkward because like usually the next one that we're going into is a 4 diff. Like we're usually going 4 diff into 4 diff unless we're like playing 1.3 as our second move, which I guess if we have 2, those lines will come up. But for the most part, like unless you check, all this really does is protect you from checking bad. Doesn't actually like plus you if you're playing something bigger because we don't have bigger things to play. Cheerleader and Decoy are 100% your sideboard cards here. You just want to side these as your outs to anything trying to threaten you really, really efficiently, especially for those decks that you know that you don't think you can kill on turn 2, like those chunky 5-handers. These are momentum cost cards, right? So if you think you'll make it to turn 3, these are good cards to sideboard into because they'll actually be live. And then I think Surge is really, really, really good with 1.3. Not particularly worried about it with anything else, but I do think it really, really punishes your rival for blocking your pokes and then dying to, you know, a singular million volts. I think it's really good. Could be better in this Asui's Friendship slot. There's a world where you just go like full on 2 and you cut like the nice tries to play even more aggressive cards, but I don't know if I'd want to go that all in. We're already very all in, and I think that's kind of my only issue with Surge is our deck is already so all in on set them up to die from 1.3 that I don't know if I'd want to put more cards that go all in on that. These are also all very solid cards to consider if you wanted to make the deck a little bigger. If you're not trying to play like, you know, the Blitz you turn to Master Asia style here, the 50 cards, the bad block zones, the bad attack ratios. If you're not all in for that game plan, these are all like really cool 2-ofs to consider. And then I would also consider Seizing the Advantages because it's just more speed and it lets us touch our rival's board, which notably the air symbol doesn't get to do very much of. Looking at our attacks here, if you did really want to touch your rival's board, I think Chimera Kraken is a really cool option here. Just being a 6 high for 6 with our character, it's got good base damage, it lets us target commit something, and it lets us commit a troublesome asset. And then if it does hit and we don't kill them, we have something frozen on their board, and we have this +2 speed waiting in our momentum. So that's pretty cool. My only issue with this card is like if we're all in on turn 2, most of this card's text comes in after that aggressive turn, right? The momentum ability and the freeze is a big part of the value of this card, so don't know if it pulls its weight as a 5 diff there for a style like this. But in a bigger deck that's more like, you know, turn 4, turn 5 focused, I do like this a lot. I think there's a world where like you play 4 Razor Deluge instead of 3, and then you also play Tape Stream Jab, and you just try to put a million things in their card pool to really make your 1.3s unblockable. That might be the move there. Could be better than something like Nejire Wave, because this card like already kind of tries to get them to play into the block my stuff, block my stuff, block my stuff, die to the bomb, which is exactly how 1.3 works. So maybe instead of Nejire Wave, we might see better success in just committing to that game plan rather than offering more results to it, because it just kind of streamlines us more with something like this. But I don't think this card's very, very mid, but also it's kind of like meant to get blocked. It's food for thought for sure. And then lastly, I think if you like just wanted a little bit more tech in the deck, Shrapnel Tooth could be really cool as, again, something that lets us touch our rival's board. My only issue is it flips committed things, which usually is only relevant for like the next turn cycle of the game, which we're not planning on getting to. But it's also a low, so I kind of value it there too. I think Glacier Breaker, I think if you just really wanted more draw, I think this could be a cool alternative to like Single Spiral, because like this one just says if you let it hit me, I get to draw a card. You Asui it, it's a 6 high for 3. no one's blocking that. Not in a deck like this. Once they know what you're doing, they're just not blocking that. Like, they're just not. It doesn't make sense to block that. So it's usually going to be a free draw. It also doubles as a low block, which is kind of neat. Could be better than single spiral, but I feel like the base 3 damage on this one is what troubles me. I'm really into my 4 diffs that are like 5 damage, right? 4 diff 5 damage, 4 diff 6 damage, 4 diff 3 damage. But if you don't block it, it's essentially 5, right? At least if they put an attack in, right, and it's your only thing in the pool, they're gonna lose 1 health. 1 health, 1 health is 5. So it's essentially a 5 damage. This is 5 damage, and then this is your big damage punishment and your big damage punishment. It's a very, very, very simple game plan. Very, very, very simple deck. You know, it's very reminiscent of like those order decks that are kind of just like designed to like chill out, survive, draw, you know, commit all your stuff, survive, and then eventually, oh, hey, look, I got you to commit out on a bad aggressive turn, and now I have 4 different ways to put speed on 1.3, now you're dead. This Asui deck kind of does the same thing, except without any of the chilling out. We go to turn 2, and then we just say, like, these are like my 10 damage moves now, if you built any like semblance of a stage. So there's also a world where like maybe it's a bit more of like a turn 3 deck if they don't have that big enough of a stage yet, because again, this is like the only way we find serious damage here in like our air symbol lineup on these keywords anyway, right? We don't get to do the charge thing and just play that very efficient package because we got to play kicks or ranged, which I think is still super duper fine. I think this is a very interesting thought experiment. If you wanted to go like the most competitive route with a style like this, life or water are probably the way to go. But if you, I think there's also a world where you can make this like a little bigger and make it a little bit less like all in, more of a traditional style deck. And it really, really brings out some serious legs for Air Asui, pun intended. I like Razor Deluge a lot in this character. It feels super duper good. Anyway, though, that's gonna wrap up this little deck commission here. Very interesting experiment that could potentially go somewhere. Again, Air Asui, I think, is pretty unexplored territory for most players, as Asui is in general. I haven't seen this character in like forever, and I don't know why, because she only continues to get better.